Why does the universe exist at all? Why is there something?
But surely the bigger question is not why, but how.
He wants to change the question, reverse it. Imagine if Ricky is asking Stephen Colbert questions, and Stephen Colbert twice in a row says, that's not the question. We would think he's a religious dogmatist. But the shoe is on the other foot. Hi, I'm Glenn from Speak Life. We like to see all things through the lens of Jesus. Recently, we did a video on Ricky Gervais and his appearance on Stephen Colbert. There, Ricky made the argument that he denies just one more God than Stephen Colbert believes in. And I went through why I didn't think that was a great argument. In the rest of the comments, people were saying, he made other arguments on Stephen Colbert. Are you running scared from those other arguments? To show that I'm not running scared from those other arguments, and to show that probably that argument from Ricky was the best that he had, let's go through everything else that Ricky Gervais said on Stephen Colbert. And this is going back in the day. This is 7 years old now.
Do you have any interest in a knighthood? Because a lot of British performers end up like getting a knighthood for service to the community or drama or something like that. Was that any interest to you?
Well, it's not like it was in the old days. If it meant I could go down the street on a horse with a sword killing people, then yes. But it's nothing.
I do really love Ricky Gervais, the comedian. Extras was fantastic, but The Office, the original Office, the UK version, is some of the greatest TV I think that has ever been made. I think he's a comic genius, I do.
Give me a big sword and a horse, then I'll take it, you know what I mean?
Talking about hell before.
I love that segue. Talking about hell.
I know that you're an atheist, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. People have been debating.
Applause.
That's the devil waiting for you in hell, by the way. Yeah. Would you want to debate the existence of God? Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to debate the existence of God? As Francis Spufford has said, I think the existence of God is the least interesting thing about God. And I don't know if you've ever had really positive and fruitful conversations about the existence of God, just like the bare existence of God. We'll see how this goes. Let's have a look at the comments and see how a debate about the existence of God goes. I find it far healthier to frame the kind of God it is that we're talking about, rather than just the idea that there's some kind of God. If Ricky Gervais tells me he doesn't believe in God, I think my next question is, which God don't you believe in? And he would probably end up describing a God that I don't believe in either, and we will get to that. We share common ground. Ricky Gervais and I certainly do disbelieve in a whole bunch of gods, and I wonder if we both disbelieve in the God that springs to his mind when he disbelieves in God.
So, Ricky Gervais, why is there something instead of nothing?
Oh, there we go. Were you expecting that? Why is there something instead of nothing? And clearly, Ricky Gervais has been wrong-footed by this. He's not really ready for this question.
That makes no sense
You
at all.
have to answer.
That makes no sense at all. Put the shoe on the other foot. Imagine Ricky asks Stephen a question, and Stephen just says, that makes no sense at all. That's not even a question. Like imagine that it was the other way around.
That's not the two choices.
No, but
I hope we're all clear. Something and nothing are the only two options. There is no in-between option. There is no further option. Something else would be something. There is only nothing or something. And I think we can all agree that the most extraordinary thing that there is something. And that of the two options, the more astonishing is the fact that we are living in something, that we are somethings in a greater reality called existence. There are literally two options here. There's only something or nothing, and we happen to be living in the far more improbable and astonishing of those two options. And if you are not astonished by that, I'm not sure we're going to have a very good God conversation. Because if the astonishment of everything is invisible to you, then how are you going to react when we talk about a being like God? If everything is nothing to you, then nothing will astonish you, and that's a problem. Okay, but we keep going.
you have to answer my question.
That's not the two choices.
No, but the choices I'm giving you, I'm the host.
Definitely the two choices.
Well, I don't...
You want to concede the debate? Why is there something instead of nothing?
Hold on.
Yes?
What do you mean, out of nothing? What do you...
Why is there something?
He never said out of nothing. He never talked... He's not talking at this point about how you get everything out of nothing. He is at this point talking about why there is such an extraordinary and improbable thing as existence.
Why is there something instead of why is there nothing? Why does the universe exist at all? Why is there something?
But surely the bigger question is not why, but how.
So he wants to change the question, which again, okay, reverse it. Imagine if Ricky is asking Stephen Colbert questions and Stephen Colbert twice in a row says, that's not the question. This is the question. Like, what would we think? We would think he was running scared. We would think he's not open for an actual discussion. We would think he's a religious dogmatist. But the shoe is on the other foot. It's Ricky who is constantly saying, no, that's not the question that needs answering. Well, yeah, actually, why is there a universe? Why is there something rather than nothing? The why question about existence is the most natural question for every single human being on Earth to ask. And without a why, we live nihilistic lives that lose all meaning and purpose. And so the why question is very much a relevant question, but it's a question that Ricky says is not a question, and we must shift the question to something else called the how question.
Well, why is it irrelevant?
Okay, fine.
Why is irrelevant? Why is not irrelevant even to Ricky Gervais? Ricky Gervais gets out of bed for a certain set of whys, okay? And none of us do anything unless there's a kind of a why. And yet there are many people like Ricky Gervais who says we don't need a why for the whole thing. We do need a why in order to get through 24 hours, but somehow we can do without a why to get through 70 years and 10. Okay, maybe you say there is no why. Maybe after a lot of consideration, you think there is no purpose to existence, there is no significance to the whole thing. Okay, if after a lot of discussion you've reached that verdict, come out with that verdict and then say, and that is a cost of my atheism, a cost that I'm open about and a cost I'm willing to bear. But don't say that there's no cost. Don't say that it's irrelevant, okay? It's not irrelevant. It's perhaps the most relevant question. In fact, even the word relevance brings up this idea of purpose and meaning and significance. Ricky Gervais needs a meaningful question to be asked, but he doesn't need a meaningful universe in which to ask it. And I just think that doesn't really make sense. And I think he's not really being open about the costs to his atheism, because getting rid of the why is a vast cost, which I don't think we have to pay.
How is there something? Because you think of God as the prime mover.
Okay, how is there something? So now Stephen Colbert very kindly is now moving the discussion onto terrain that Ricky Gervais is more comfortable with. He is not comfortable answering questions that the vast majority of humanity have wrestled with for centuries and millennia. And so, okay, let's go and just ask the scientific question then. Okay, how has everything come from nothing? And so really he's offering, like Ricky, a slam dunk, okay? How is Ricky going to answer the how question?
How is there anything instead of nothing?
I don't. This is a ridiculous
Is there a
premise.
prime mover? Is there a demiurge that started everything?
Well, outside science and nature, I don't believe so. Because the interesting thing is...
Okay, outside science and nature. So science and nature are his brute fact. This is his fundamental reality, okay? And at that point, I want to say, well, actually, Stephen Colbert and Christians, they have a fundamental reality too. There is the triune God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. There's a Father loving his Son in the joy of the Holy Spirit. That is the fountain of life. That is the source of all being. So, okay, here's a brute fact for you. God just is, okay? And here is a fundamental reality. And Ricky says, okay, science and nature are my fundamental reality. And at that point, you might think, okay, it's 0-0. It's a tie. Except that Ricky, with science and nature, can't explain the why for everything. And he hasn't really given a satisfactory how for why everything is as it is. And as we'll see, I think the explanatory power of simply science and nature is outstripped massively by belief in a God who is love and who therefore makes sense of why love is the greatest thing in life. So I think Ricky Gervais is 3-0 down at this stage. He's going to have a little bit of a comeback in the second half, but right now he's 3-0 down.
This is the thing, right? So I'm an agnostic atheist, technically. Agnostics means no one knows whether there's a God. So everyone's technically agnostic. We don't know.
That's true,
So
that's true.
An agnostic atheist is someone who doesn't know there's a God or not, as no one does.
I am familiar with this kind of way of setting up the categories, but I think agnosticism as a method is one thing. The conclusion that there is no God is quite a different thing. And he's quite rightly trying to say, as regards my method, I have a method of doubt. As regards to my conclusion, I've decided that there is no God. And I can kind of see how that works, but watch how he moves between agnosticism, I don't know, and atheism, I know there's not God. And I think that move back and forwards is a little bit slippery.
So you're not convicted of your atheism?
Well, I
You're not
am.
Sure.
No, I am, because atheism is only rejecting the claim that there is a God. Atheism isn't a belief system. Atheism. So this is atheism in a nutshell. You say there's a God. I say, can you prove that? You say no.
No, that's not what happened. Stephen Colbert starts with, okay, why is there something rather than nothing? And he got told by Ricky Gervais that's not a good question. And then Ricky Gervais said there isn't a choice to be made between everything and nothing. And then Stephen Colbert comes out with, okay, so how did everything come from nothing? And Ricky Gervais goes 0 for 3 on those opening questions. And so it is not the case that Ricky Gervais is this independent, fair-minded arbiter of facts, and he's just weighing the evidence. He is very much of a certain persuasion. He can't even recognize when powerful arguments are being made against him. That's a serious position to be in, when not only do you not have an answer to the questions that are posed to you, but you don't really understand the questions, and you don't really understand how powerful and how important those are. I think that is Ricky's position here. So it is not the case that he said to Stephen Colbert, can you prove it? And no. But then he goes on.
You say there's a God. I say, can you prove that? You say no. I say, I don't believe you then.
So at this point, he's trying to say that he is an agnostic, and he's trying to say, I'm just a thoroughgoing agnostic, and my agnosticism as a method yields the answer that I just don't know about God, and I'm not persuaded. I'm open to being persuaded by you, Stephen, but I'm not persuaded by you, and therefore my doubt is more thoroughgoing than your doubt. And that's what leads on to the very famous argument that he makes right here.
You believe in one God, I assume?
In 3 persons, but go ahead.
Okay, so you believe... Okay. So... But there are about 3,000 to choose from that have been, people who believe in...
I've done some reading, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So basically, you believe in... You deny one less God than I do. You don't believe in 2,999 gods, and I don't believe in just one more.
Right.
Yeah. And that gets the applause. Now, we've done a whole video on this. You can check it out, but I'll just bring you one analogy that I used in the other video, and it's about political beliefs. Imagine that there is a room full of people with different theories about how you should arrange society, and there's Democrats there, and there are constitutional monarchs, and there's a military dictator there, and there's a communist, and there's a fascist, and there's a socialist, and there's all different kinds of people. And imagine an anarchist walks into the room and he says to the communist, listen, communist, you doubt all the other political theories. Well done. You've got that method of doubt. Okay. So you just need to go one more doubt further. You just need to doubt one more political theory. So doubt the military dictator, doubt the constitutional monarch, doubt the Democrat, doubt the fascist, doubt the socialist, and just keep on going, doubting. And you'll doubt your own communism, and then you'll become an anarchist, just like I am. As though the anarchist doesn't have a series of beliefs themselves, okay? The anarchist is not a neutral. The anarchist who says, I am not with all those other guys, still has a positive vision for what a society should be and what a government is, and they might say there should be no government, but that doesn't mean that they are not a political theorist. And Ricky Gervais might say that there is no God, but that doesn't mean he's not a theologian. He has very developed ideas of who God or the gods might be, and they happen to be completely erroneous ideas about who God or the gods can be. Yes, there might be 3,000 different gods that have been believed down through the years, but the vast majority of those are just super beings within the created order, and the difference between a super being and the created order and the source of all being is absolutely profound, and something that Ricky doesn't seem to really get. And so Ricky's method is to imagine that everybody is just a doubter, and the most doubting you can do means the more skeptical you are, and perhaps the least open to supernatural claims and nonsense and quackery. Okay, you can only doubt things on the basis of other beliefs. And Ricky doubts Christianity for certain reasons, but those other reasons are based on beliefs that he holds. But the shoe is on the other foot when I say to Ricky, I doubt your atheism. I look out at a world where there is meaning and there is purpose and there is love. And actually, I think that your naturalism, your belief that nature is all there is, was, or ever shall be, I think that is to be doubted because of some prior beliefs. But I'm a doubter because of beliefs. And Ricky's a doubter because of beliefs. And it doesn't just work that Ricky is the one who just doubts more consistently. That's not the way it works. You can check out the other video to see what else I say.
Do you ever have a feeling of great gratitude for existence?
This is really interesting. Stephen Colbert is now pressing into matters of the heart. And I think he's doing a tremendous job here. First talking about, everything and nothing and how we get everything from nothing. And now he's going to far more existential matters and matters of the heart. Do you have gratitude for existence? Do you have the desire to say thank you? Well, to whom are you going to direct that gratitude?
Of course.
Do you ever have
I know the chances are billions to one that I am on this planet as me and never will be again.
And I know I can't convince you that there is a God, nor do I really want to convince you there's a God, but
No.
I can only explain my experience, which is that I have a strong desire to direct that gratitude toward something or someone.
Of course.
And that thing is God.
We're mortal. We want to make sense of nature and science, and it's too unfathomable.
We want to make sense of science and nature, which means that science and nature can't be everything, because there needs to be a why outside of science and nature to make sense of it. Okay? Samuel Johnson, the great essayist, said, he knows not England who only England knows. You got to kind of go outside of England to come back inside England and to figure out how it fits into the world. And in a sense, he knows not science who only science knows. But Ricky has cut himself off not only from the why statements about the rest of life, he's also cut himself off from why statements about science itself, because if there's nothing beyond science, then he knows not science who only science knows. There's nothing beyond it to give it that context and to give it that meaning and that significance. And he says he wants that meaning and that significance. Therefore, there is a significant cost to Ricky's atheism. And it doesn't just cost the lack of meaning and significance to life and to reality and to existence and to the universe as a whole. It also means we lack the meaning and purpose and significance to science itself. Because if science is everything, there's no greater context that gives it that significance.
Everything in the universe was once crunched into something smaller than an atom.
But you don't know that.
Well,
Interesting.
You're just believing
but
Stephen
not-
Hawking,
but-
and that's a matter
but
of
it's-
faith in his
yeah, but
abilities.
yes.
You don't know it yourself.
That's really interesting, because what Stephen Colbert is trying to do is get Ricky to recognize his beliefs. Ricky thinks he is a pure doubter, but there's no such thing as a pure doubter. You only doubt on the basis of prior beliefs. But beliefs are invisible to Ricky, because he thinks he is just an agnostic. He thinks he's a pure skeptic. There's no such thing as pure skepticism, because, you can't do science without believing the testimony of others. Okay, the amount of knowledge you have that you have derived purely from mathematical certainties or doing scientific experiments under laboratory conditions is minuscule. Probably only 1% of the things that you know have come to you because you've directly observed them. 99% of what you know has come to you through the testimony of others, and you've had to believe them. You've had to have faith, you had to exercise, and that faith can be absolutely justified, and that's why we have a scientific method, and that's why we have peer review, and that's why we try to disconfirm the hypotheses that we have, and that's why we try to repeat experiments all over the world with different populations, and there's all sorts of things we want to do in order that our trust might be vindicated, might be justified, but we still exercise faith. And Stephen Colbert is trying to give Ricky the sense that faith is not something that simply religious people do. It's woven into how all of us come to know stuff.
You don't know it yourself. You're accepting that because someone told you.
yeah, well, but science is constantly proved all the time. You see, if we take something like any fiction, any holy book, in any other fiction, and destroyed it, okay, in 1,000 years' time, that wouldn't come back just as it was. Whereas if we took every science book, right, and every fact, and destroyed them all, in 1,000 years, they'd all be back, because all the same tests would be the same result.
That's good.
I love that Stephen Colbert says that's good, because it is good. It is good that science actually works, okay? It's amazing that this 3 pounds of grey matter that, according to Ricky, is purely the product of survival of the fittest over the generations, can somehow fathom the mysteries of the cosmos, and that somehow there are laws of nature that would remain the same even if every textbook was destroyed. Isn't that amazing? And that humans can hypothesize about laws up above and go out into the world out there, and they can triangulate the laws up above and the minds in here and the world out there. You know, Einstein said the eternal mystery of the world is its comprehensibility. The fact that it is comprehensible is a miracle. And it's not a miracle that Stephen Colbert is wanting to deny. It's actually a miracle that Stephen Colbert is very much wanting to affirm. Because on page 1 of the Bible, you have a reason why the human mind is able to fathom the mysteries of the cosmos. If we are in the image of God, then you might expect that human brains have some abilities to be in touch with the laws of nature. And so Einstein's miracle, which is at the heart of the scientific enterprise, is not disproved by 400 years of modern Western scientific endeavor. It is proved every single time there is scientific advance and discovery. That the triangulation works, that the world and our minds are exactly as miraculous as Einstein said they were. The other thing to say with Ricky Gervais's thought experiment, getting rid of all the art and literature in the world and all the books in the world is such a destructive move. So it would be true that you might get rid of holy texts and maybe holy texts wouldn't come back. Okay, sure. But neither would history. Neither would literature, neither would poetry, neither would so much that is absolutely core to the human experience of this world. But if we're going to say the only things that are important are the kinds of books that you could write 1,000 years later that would never change, well, I don't think you understand science very well, because 1,000 years ago, our scientific knowledge was quite different to what it is today, and it will be different again in 1,000 years' time. So I don't think you even understand science very well. But B, to think that only scientific knowledge is the stuff that's worth hanging on to is such an anemic vision for humanity. And I think actually at the end of this interview, the musicians are waking up to this, because I think the final argument against Ricky Gervais is not actually brought by Stephen Colbert. It's brought by the band, because they are reminding all of us that there are things that are more important than scientific textbooks. We'll see at the end.
Ricky, please come back and debate something even more important. Sure.
Listen.
David Brent, Life on the Road, is on Netflix February 10th. Ricky Gervais, everybody. We'll be right back with Christina Ricci.
Do you know the song? You have the song yet? Johann Sebastian Bach, Jesu, Joy of Man's Desiring. I love that the musicians, like whoever is in the band, I bet they were saying to one another, do you know Jesu, Joy of Man's Desiring? Yeah, I know Jesu, Joy of Man's Desiring. And then they start playing this beautiful thing. It just says, Jesu, joy of man's desiring, holy wisdom, love most bright, drawn by thee our souls aspiring, soar to uncreated light, word of God our flesh that fashioned, with the fire of life impassioned, striving still to truth unknown, soaring, dying round thy throne, through the way where hope is guiding, hark what peaceful music rings, where the flock in thee confiding, drink of joy from deathless springs. Theirs is beauty's fairest pleasure, theirs is wisdom's holiest treasure. Thou dost ever lead thine own. Ultimately, it's that kind of argument that actually wins hearts and minds. It's seeing the joy of your desiring in the person of Jesus, because ultimately there is a why behind this world, but it's not just iron laws of physics grinding along. It's actually a person who loves you, a person who loves you more than his own life. And that ultimately is what is going to persuade people. Ricky Gervais strikes the pose of someone who won't be persuaded by Stephen Colbert's arguments, but it's not because he's open to persuasion. He's not open to persuasion. We are heart-driven creatures until our hearts are captured by a bigger vision, a richer vision, a deeper vision. And if you haven't seen Jesus yet, you're not going to understand these arguments about God's existence. You're really not, and you're going to have your defenses up. And you're not going to be attuned to the astonishment of reality and existence And the fact that this could have been nothing, but it's not. It's gift, it's pure grace, it's bliss because of Jesus. That's what Christians believe. And if you want to investigate about Jesus, we've got a great way for you to do it, 321course.com. Why don't you go there, start an account. You can binge the whole thing in 2 hours, or you can take it 8 sessions at a time. Thousands of people are doing 321. Why don't you do 321 as well and discover Jesus, the joy of man's desiring? I've been Glen Scrivener. I'll catch you on the next one.